In the winter of 1959, in the snow-covered mountains of Russia, a group of students set out on a cross-country hike. 29 days later, their bodies were found, and the peculiarity and strangeness of their deaths would spark a 60-year-long investigation that to this day remains shrouded in mystery. Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Hoke Poke Pod, the show where we explore the strange and unusual.
Really, we're just two idiots poking stuff still that we don't understand.
So join us as we dare to ask the questions that nobody once answered, such as, did the animated hit movie Frozen contribute to the resolution of a 60-year-old cold case?
Could laying face down in a ditch cause your eyes to decompose?
And radiation! What's it doing in the middle of the Russian mountains? I'm Erica.
And I'm Emily.
Let's snow! Like, let's go.
I get it. That's a great way to start off this series.
Do you know what's bad? I actually forgot to write it down, and that one was on the spot.
Well, that worked. Well done.
Yeah, it's like, welcome to Season 2. We're back.
We're back. Also, is it season or series?
Oh.
What's
the difference?
I don't know, but you know what? It's a sneeries. Let's just say sneeries.
Sneeries, yes. We're back sneeries too. It's going to be stranger. It's going to be weirder.
It is.
It's going to be more remote. It's just going to be all around bigger and better.
Yeah.
And we're starting off with a weird one.
Yeah. I don't think we haven't really done like a murder case before.
Yeah. And I mean, murder is a death, I guess, because whether it was murder or not is part of the mystery, and hotly debated. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we haven't really done, I guess, deaths and a case in which people died. Like, I want to say true crime, but like I said, it wasn't really a crime. It was just this mysterious set of deaths, which we're going to talk about.
We don't really know really how they died or what killed them. Not going to say who, because it's more like what.
It's more like what. I feel like it's definitely a what, but it's certainly a weird case, and you may have heard about it because it actually was opened up again in 2019, and so I feel like there's kind of been a resurgence of interest in it. And I guess the case is predominantly called the Dyatlov Pass case, and we'll just kind of talk you through it. And it begins in very cold, very wintry Russia in January of 1959. January 27th, a group of 10 hikers led by a 23-year-old man named Igor Dyatlov intended to hike across the North Ural Mountains. It was going to be a 16-day expedition covering about 300 kilometers. 8 men, 2 women all knew each other from the local radio engineering school. And they were all qualified hikers. They all had at least their grade 2 hiker certification. I don't know what that means, but that sounds legitimate. They had a certification in hiking, so they had to be pretty experienced.
They were legit.
They were legit, very young, healthy hikers who were very well equipped to go on this mid-Russian winter hike through the mountains. And so January 27th, they set off. And there's 10 of them, and then the day they set off, actually one of them gets sick and can't continue, so he turns back to the little village, and his name is Yudin. So 5 days into the hike, on February 1st, they are trying to cross this pass in the mountains, which will become known as Dyatlov's Pass. But a snowstorm forced them to head west instead, and so for the night they set up camp on this slope called the Kolat Cycle. Slope, part of the mountain, which, funnily enough, translates to the Dead Mountain, which is a little bit sort of a hint of what's to come for these hikers. Mm-hmm. And also just like a weird name for a mountain. I mean, maybe not weird, a creepy name for a mountain. I feel like mountain's a strange name.
I mean, and as far as I know, this was completely unexplored terrain. So you're going into unexplored terrain in a place called Dead Mountain. I don't know. For me, I feel like that's just like going for a swim in the Bermuda Triangle. Like, what are you doing, really?
Yeah, and like, not to mention, it's the middle of Russian winter, which means it is. Yeah. They reckon that night was between minus 25 to minus 30 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
The coldest I've been actually in Russia, was minus 21. And that was like in a town in the sun. And it was fucking cold. Like minus 21 was brutal. That was like you could feel like the ice in your bones.
Yeah.
You couldn't stay out longer for 20 minutes. Super rugged up.
Yeah.
These people are at night atop of a mountain in the wind in a tiny little tent. Oh, it was probably a pretty big tent. It housed 10 people. But a tent in the minus 25 degree temperature. That's crazy. So yeah, like hiking's not my thing in the best of weather, but this sounds fucking miserable. I don't know why these people were doing this. I mean, you're more of an outdoorsy person than I am.
I would not go camping in the snow, I don't think. That just sounds like not a good idea.
Well, it turned out not to be a great idea.
Yes, what happened next?
Hikers. Okay, so that's January 1st, and a lot of these hikers, there were 9 of them in total, they kept diaries and journals, which is the reason we have sort of a detailed record up to this point. And also 4 of them had cameras with them. So it was pretty well documented, and there's a lot of footage of the days leading up to the trip and the kind of beginning of the hike. But anyway, the man who hadn't been able to continue with them, Yudin, he had agreed with Dyatlov that Dyatlov would send a telegram to him when they returned to this town. Mm-hmm. And the day that they were due to return comes and goes and there's no telegram. So Yudin's not too worried because they're hiking and it's not an exact science. But after a week, there still hasn't been a telegram. So that's when he contacts the authorities and says, my friends went hiking through this pass. They haven't come back yet. It was actually the university that they all attended that organized a rescue crew to go out and find them. So they set out into the cold and the snow. At this point, it's February 26th before the rescue team come across Dyatlov's camp. And what they find is strange because they find the tent first. It's collapsed. There's obviously been a week or 2 of snowfall covering it. But the weirdest thing is that the tent has been cut open from the inside. And all of their belongings, including their clothes and their shoes, are neatly folded inside, as well as the remnants of a meal that they would have eaten before whatever happened. So immediately everyone's very concerned because the tent's been cut open and the people obviously don't have their clothes with them. And there's footprints outside the tent. They follow the footprints and it kind of spreads out to a few different locations. The first set of bodies they find are 1.5 kilometers away from the tent. It takes them to the edge of the woods and there's the remnants of a fire and 2 of the hikers are found around the fire dead in only their underwear. So no warm weather clothes and no shoes or socks. So obviously whatever got them out of their tents was hurried. Above them in the trees, the branches above their trees were broken up to about 5 meters high, indicating that at some point they'd climbed up the trees to get a good view, or we can only kind of guess what they were doing up there.
Oh my gosh.
They eventually find 3 more bodies in between this campfire and the tent, and they're kind of spread out like a couple 100 meters from each other. And these 3 bodies are also found, no shoes, no warm clothes, frozen to death. The final 4 bodies of the campers were found about 3 days later, further into the woods. This is where it gets a little bit stranger because these 3 bodies were found with more clothes than anyone else, but they kind of had mismatched clothes. It wasn't their own clothes. It was some of their friends' clothes. Like they had one sock of theirs and a sock of somebody else's. And it was kind of super weird. And the assumption was like immediately that they'd gone back and taken the clothes off their dead friends to keep themselves warm. So it's assumed they all died of hypothermia. Something had happened. They'd run out of the tent, not been able to return. Tragic, but, not a great mystery. Until the autopsy. So they do the autopsies, and this is where it gets weird. The sort of, oh God, how many was it? I have to do maths. The 6 of them who were found first had all been confirmed to have died of hypothermia. But the 3 that were found further into the woods with weird mismatched clothes on had different injuries, internal injuries. So one had fractures to the chest, another one had fractures to the skull, and I think the third one also had fractures to the chest, but they had no external injuries. So they had these awful, debilitating like injuries that sort of had to be caused by high pressure impact, but they didn't have any cuts or bruises, with the exception of one. So one of the women in this group with the weird clothes was found not only with these internal injuries, but her eyes were missing, her tongue was missing, along with parts of her lip, her face, and her skull. Like the bone skull was missing. And her hands had been like lacerated.
Wow.
The final weirdest part of this was, and why they tested for this in the first place was a bit of a mystery, but 3 separate articles of clothing on different people were found to actually be radioactive and contain radiation. The people weren't irradiated. The tents weren't. None of the items were irradiated. Just the 3 separate items of clothing. And there is no like public explanation for why that would be the case.
Yeah.
The final, I guess, bit of information that they found on the crime scene was that these people had obviously left the tent in such a rush that they couldn't even put their clothes and shoes on. And in that type of weather, that's almost certain death. Except one of the hikers had the time and clarity of thought to grab his camera and took his camera with him.
Huh. I didn't know that. That's very mysterious.
No footage was able to be recovered because it was just in such a bad state.
Whoa.
But yeah, you run out of your tent in the middle of the night in minus 30-degree temperature. You don't grab your shoes or jackets, but you do grab your camera.
Priorities. I mean, when you're panicking though.
So this is the start of, well, exactly. So then the mystery is what happened to these campers? And after the initial investigation in 1959, the Russian authorities pretty much declared it a mystery.
Yeah.
They said, we don't know. It was some terrible natural event and they all died and it's tragic. But the case was, even though it was closed, it was officially unsolved, I guess.
Yeah.
And that is the story of the Dyatlov Pass.
Which we love when something is just declared a mystery. That's when our ears prick up and we go, well, we're going to solve it.
And then we go, well, a mystery for you maybe. You haven't met us. So we can crack this 60-decade-old cold case. Easy. A cold case.
We can crack this in 20 minutes or just go off on ridiculous tangents, which is more likely what's going to happen.
Yeah. We got this.
So I'll go over the very plausible theories and then I'll get into the really ridiculous ones.
I love that.
AKA my favorite and the ones that I like to believe in.
Okay.
So the very plausible one was that it was a slab avalanche, which I think we've decided we both want to call a slab avalanche.
Yeah.
Which is when there's like a weak part of ice underneath the top layer, and I think that they had cut into the ice to put their tent on this hill, and it made it really unstable. So then the ice piled up and fell over on top of them, and they thought it was an avalanche, and then they went like, cut themselves out from under the tent, rushed out. Yeah, because the tent was cut open from the inside, very odd. And also it was like, how do you find out if something's been cut open from the inside? But apparently a seamstress was able to determine this.
Wow, I mean, good. Yeah, that's impressive. I mean, I think that's also would account for and they've said that would account for the kind of like internal high pressure injuries.
Yes.
Like if they'd been lying in the tents asleep and then this huge weight of snow was suddenly on them.
Yeah. That
would account for them having internal injuries and no external injuries.
Yes. And they also said it could have been a combination of it's called katabatic winds, which only happen in like the Alps, like that in that area, which are like very, very high winds. So they probably were also potentially starting to get buried under the tent. But that being said, the pictures of the tent, like it was found 29 days later after like their disappearance, it wasn't like really that buried.
Yeah.
It was still there above the surface. So it's kind of odd.
And this is the thing. So the avalanche theory was one that was kind of first proposed in 1959 and kind of dismissed because there would be evidence of an avalanche.
Yeah.
The tent would be buried, the bodies would have been buried, and they just weren't. And like you said, they found the bodies 29 days later and had like the appropriate amount of snowfall coverage, but that's kind of was one of the leading causes of this avalanche theory being questioned.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit of trivia. So the case was reopened in 2019. I don't know why. I guess people just wanted to solve it. And they actually used the same like animation studio or whatever it was that designed the snow for the movie Frozen actually assisted the investigation in being able to replicate snow patterns. And so it was the same like animation engine, I guess, that allowed them to replicate these snow conditions and figure out that it could have been a slab avalanche.
Oh my
so
God.
there you go. Frozen.
So
good on you.
Anna and Elsa saving the day again.
Solving these cold cases.
How resourceful. Isn't this an amazing world?
Cool.
They
so then in
utilize
2020,
Disney animation.
they officially closed the case, declaring it to be this slab avalanche. But some people have issues with that theory.
Yeah, because it's also, so after that, I guess they fled the tent, went down, but 1.5 Ks, how long were they running for in like bare feet? Like, that's nuts.
Well, this is the thing. There's just so many things that don't add up.
No.
Like, okay, so they ran far away, which is fair enough. But then obviously some of them went back for the clothes of their friends who had died.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you keep going back to the tent and get like your gear?
Yeah, I know, unless they couldn't find the tent. But it depends what the timeline is for this for about how much longer they survived than their friends.
Well, we know that from the autopsies, they were all dead about 6 to 8 hours after their last meal, which is not that long.
No.
So they had the remnants of the half-eaten meal in the tent, so we can kind of assume that at least some of them were up and cooking and eating when the we'll call it a slab avalanche hit.
Mm-hmm.
But 6 to 8 hours after, like, is not a crazy amount of time. It's a long time when you don't have any clothes and it's minus 30 degrees.
Yeah.
But it's I guess it would have still been dark if it was nighttime.
Yeah, it must have been overnight. Like, that's probably why they couldn't find their way back. Couldn't he have used his camera to, like, take pictures of, I don't know, to try and use the flash?
It was like 1959, like, camera tech. I don't know if it had the high quality lights. But that would also account for why they were trying to climb the trees to get a vantage point and see there.
Yeah, and also I think one of the theories I saw was that they were climbing the trees because they'd made a fire. So they were climbing the trees to try and get drier branches from the top. Apparently that's a thing.
Oh.
But he like
okay, that would make sense.
Scraped himself and then that also explains why they had like charred fingers, because they probably shoved their hands in the fire because it was so cold, which like is pretty nuts. And also that he'd like bitten a piece out of his hand. That was pretty odd.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were literally like,
campfire.
This is how loaded this series of deaths is that there is so many
insane.
Different details.
Every individual you look into, they're so different. Like it wasn't like they all died of hypothermia. They all had these internal injuries. Each person had such a variety of problems. Yeah. It's crazy.
And it's so weird. And there was like 10 of them, so it just takes forever to kind of go through and be like, oh no, that was the guy that had foam coming out of his mouth. Okay. Was that the radiation? No. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're interested, look into it. There's also some photos which if you want to look at them, they're there, but they're pretty gruesome.
They are and they don't really give you warnings either. But
they just kind of pop up, and it's a bit like they have like one photo of these people like laughing and joking before they set up for the trip, and the next photo is their like corpse. It's a little rough. So
yeah, I wouldn't.
If you're not,
I wouldn't appreciate a send off like that.
Look up these photos, but they are online if you are interested.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, these people, tell us what happened to them.
Well, the last plausible theory for this, because I feel like this event happened in stages, was for the last 3 people that were found, wearing their friends' clothes off in the forest or whatever.
Which is the weirdest set of
It is the weirdest. They think that they tried to build a snow shelter underground and then they fell through into the creek.
Jesus.
Like it wasn't, because apparently that river doesn't completely freeze in winter.
Okay.
So they fell through to the river and then got completely crushed and then ended up like I don't know. Yeah, over in the forest in the creek, I guess. So that's when
So
they
could account for some injuries. Yeah.
Yeah, it could. And they found one of the women lying down and like her without a tongue and her like eyes were missing.
Okay, but if you fall down into a creek, what your tongue's not going to go.
Well, apparently this a doctor or something, one of the sources I looked at, they said that apparently, yeah, if you're lying face down in a ditch in a creek, your parts of your body can start to decompose. So that would account for that why her eyes disappeared.
Oh,
or you could say that they got poked out by fish.
Awful.
I really don't know.
Wait, so you're saying if you lay down in a ditch for like a couple of days, face down, your tongue and eyes would dissolve?
I mean, that's pretty outlandish, but let's go with that.
That just sounds crazy. I just feel like we would have heard more cases of like bodies being found in ditches with like no eyes or tongues.
We should investigate that. Yeah. I mean,
and also,
it's because apparently it wasn't cut off. It was just missing.
It was just missing. That's the thing. They just weren't there, and she definitely had eyes before she left the trip.
Wait, do we know
like,
this?
This was a new.
Did anyone ask?
She's got eyes. She's got eyes.
Did she have a tongue?
And she definitely had her full skull.
Yeah.
I just think but the skull, the bone of the skull wouldn't dissolve. Like, okay, the tongue, the eyes, are kind of gooey flesh.
Yeah,
I guess. But part of her skull was missing.
Yeah.
Missing, not broken. It wasn't there. And I don't think that your bone is not going to disintegrate and rot over 29 days. That's crazy.
It is. And it's very mysterious. And this brings us to two of the craziest theories, or the ones that I really love, is that it was either an alien invasion or a really angry Yeti that attacked them. Which both, because so with the alien invasion theory, apparently in the days leading up to their disappearance, death, murder, whichever, there were balls of light seen in the sky by people from the town. And they think maybe, like, one theory, instead of them building a fire, the burns and stuff. And apparently part of the tree was charred as well, as they think it was like heat rays from some kind of alien force.
Okay.
And maybe, I don't know. I mean, we've done an episode on UFOs. Maybe they took them for experiments and then dumped them in a ditch. and away you go.
I mean,
and stole their clothes.
Like,
wow, they're really mean. Aliens are dicks. You're right.
I know. I mean, look to alien. That doesn't feel entirely likely to me. That being said, the fact that this one of these hikers grabbed their camera in this life and death situation, I feel like if it was the middle of the night and it was an avalanche, like, you wouldn't, that's not something that you would want to take photos of badly enough to risk your life for it, and to prevent yourself from grabbing something more. And, like, I doubt he was sleeping with his camera. Like, he would have had to have grabbed it. I just feel like it had to have been something that he would want to document. And I don't feel like a Slab Avalanche is that. Whereas aliens are a Yeti.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm not backing those theories, but I'm just saying there are some. And the one thing that aliens might have done that nothing else could explain is the radiation.
That's true.
That's weird. The radiation
There is
so
a theory.
Weird.
Apparently, two of those people had worked at a radiation plant, so apparently it can stay on your clothing.
Oh.
Apparently that was part of it, unless it's made up.
Okay, well, I feel like that's definitely the answer then.
Yeah, it kind of feels like it has been solved, but it's also really fun. No.
The radiation
Actually,
aspect.
I take that back.
Oh.
I take that back, because this is the weirdest part for me.
Okay.
Is that, you know how the entire time we've been saying that they fled from the tent, they cut themselves out and they ran away? Apparently their foot tracks were traced and they were walking. They weren't running. Why were they walking? Like,
wait, for real?
For real. Like, their footsteps.
Oh, that just gave me chills.
I know. It's like, okay, so even if let's say it was a really angry Yeti that was radioactive.
You'd still run from a Yeti. You'd run from an alien, you'd run from a Yeti, you'd run from a Slab Avalanche. You'd run from all of it.
So what was
if you're
going
walking,
on?
then you would grab your cold weather gear.
Yeah.
I read one theory that was like they had hypothermia. And so they were all like, because there is a one symptom of hypothermia is that you feel excessively hot,
Yes.
so you want to strip off
Yeah.
all of your clothes. But this just feels super easy to dismiss. Like, they were experienced hikers.
Yes.
There was 9 of them. The chance of them all getting hypothermia at the same time and then all getting this same symptom and doing this crazy thing, that just feels super far-fetched.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to dismiss that one. I'm dismissing that quicker than I'm dismissing aliens.
Yeah. Well,
Okay, but if they were walking, then what the hell? It definitely wouldn't have been a slab avalanche, right?
It's pretty odd, I think, because unless something was down by the river, like drawing them in like a really cool alien.
Oh, like a sexy alien. Just like they were seduced by a sexy alien calling them to the river.
We've reached a new
So that's why they
frontier
didn't
with
have
this
any clothes,
podcast.
because they're about to have sick alien sex.
or maybe this was one of my theories, was that it was an avalanche of aliens. So like
Wait, were the aliens in the snow pre-avalanche?
Yeah.
And then the avalanche like unfroze them?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
That exactly. And then they decided, I don't know what they decided. It's I can't really even estimate that, to be honest. But
They just all just walk slowly away from the avalanche.
yeah, maybe the footsteps were backward because they were backing away from the tent.
They were like, keep it cool.
Keep it cool, guys. Keep it
Slowly
cool.
reverse. The aliens will never know what's happening.
Yeah. And
Okay.
so, and then the Yeti, okay, so this is also quite weird, is that in their photographs of the days leading up of them hiking and stuff,
Yeah.
in the background of one of them is like a really weird figure that kind of looks like a Yeti, and it hasn't been superimposed.
Yeah, I seen that photo. Yeah,
Like-
it could. I think it's just one of the hikers, and it was just like a bad photo of one of them dawdling behind. I just feel like this. I just feel like if there was a Yeti in the Russian mountains, some other Russians would have been like, "Hey, there's a Yeti." And I also feel like, what's a Yeti doing with like a woman's tongue? You know what I mean?
Because even then, like, I was looking into this theory, and like a lot of the history of Yetis, if they exist, is that they are not going to attack unless they're provoked or threatened. And like, I don't see why them.
Stop. No, stop. I have to stop you right here. What do you mean the history? I'm like the science of Yetis. What are you talking
People
about?
think they exist.
No one. Okay. If they exist, that's one thing. Nobody is sitting there going like, these are the attributes of a Yeti. They don't like this X, Y, Z. Nobody knows Yetis well enough to know
You don't
that.
know. You're not a Yeti expert.
I don't think anyone's a Yeti expert. A Yetisbert.
Maybe,
Come on a roll.
yeah. Maybe we need to move to Russia and study Yetis. It's probably a thing. I really don't know. But look, but also just to flow with me here is that if that's true that Yetis aren't going to attack unless provoked, why would they? Maybe it was a group of Yetis. I don't know. Why would they have attacked these people camping in the middle of a freaking snowstorm?
Okay, wait, no. Okay, so you're saying, I believe, yes, it could have been a Yeti because, yeah, it could have been a Yeti. But you're not willing to believe that a Yeti would attack them unprovoked. You are willing to believe in the Yeti, but you're not willing to believe it would attack them unprovoked. That's a
Affirmative.
crazy leap. Maybe they provoked a Yeti then.
Look, honestly, they could have. And
I don't think they could.
look, and this is kind of getting into my more outlandish theories that I immediately thought of.
More
Was
outlandish,
that
yes.
oh yeah,
Do
they
it.
keep going. I was like, I think they had been drinking hot cocoa, so I thought, okay, maybe it was poisoned hot cocoa and it made them go loco.
Okay, you know what? That is actually way less outlandish than many of the other theories. Like, because yeah, them being crazy could have accounted for a lot of this stuff, and like maybe it was just a terrible accident, which one of them got some poisoned cocoa and they all drank it, and like that to me feels honestly more plausible than the avalanche theory. Just because,
Mm-hmm.
it like if they're crazy, then yeah, they would do unexplainable stuff that would be hard to track.
Or even if it was just the two that had radioactive poisoning, they could have murdered the other ones or something. Although their injuries, the internal trauma that couldn't have been done by a human.
Yeah, it definitely was
So
not
maybe-
murder, which also makes me think it couldn't have been done by a Yeti, because I don't think a Yeti would freeze people.
Also,
to
the
death.
Yeti would have had to have covered
And
up
like
his
you
tracks.
said, the Yeti was not the Yeti. Yeah, that was like you said, like Yetis never attack when they're not provoked. And these were nice guys, and I just don't think that a Yeti would get them.
Yeah, okay, maybe that theory is debunked and I'm hearing it back now. My other theory, which is even more insane, was that there was like, which is a very me theory, is that there was a demon in the tent. That maybe, and he just grabbed his camera to take a photo of it, but then had to leave. I don't know.
You know,
And the footage got
I
erased.
like that a lot more than I like aliens, and I like the Yeti.
Thank you.
Because it just like I feel like a demon would be capable of causing internal injuries like that, and would just make someone's eyes and tongue disappear for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Like I feel like a demon
and
would just like want to fuck with the crime scene as much as possible,
Yeah.
so that it's impossible to figure
And
out
it
what
would
happened.
rip the tent out for sure,
From
and
the
make it go all
inside.
crazy.
Yeah,
make
for
it a possessed
sure.
tent. I don't know. It would have freaked them out. They wouldn't have wanted to go back to the tent. F that.
If there's a demon,
They'll just
there.
go sit
Yeah,
out in
no
the
way.
woods.
Yeah, no way, for sure. Yeah, okay, I like that theory. I like your theories a lot more than I like a lot of the internet theories.
I love that you're on board with this. Wow. Well, that's like those are the most outlandish things that I could think of that made the most sense to me, based on hypothermia, horrific injuries, missing eyes.
Oh, well, I mean, that's the thing. Like science has decided that this was most likely a slab avalanche, and I believe that. I believe it could make the internal injuries. I believe it would make them all rush out. The radiation, if they worked at the radiation, but it just feels like, maybe if they made a hole and then they fell to the creek, like sure. So it just feels like all of these tiny little separate theories, when you put them all together, like individually, they're all possible. But when you put them all together, it just seems like such an unlikely series of bad luck. Like for one thing after another, for them to have radiation, for them to have a slab avalanche, for them to make this igloo that fell through, like it just that just is an insanely bad night. And the law of numbers just makes me feel like that is less likely than it being a demon. At that point, I feel like a demon is just the easier answer, because it's going, these people had to have monumentally bad and weird luck for their hike to end up the way it did.
Oh.
Like, it's such a weird case.
It was a cursed trip. Did you know that last guy, that joined the trip and then was sick and left?
Yeah, you didn't.
He was like added on last minute by the university and no one knows why. And he was 10 years older than everyone else. It's very weird. So like, did he curse the trip and then left? You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
Don't know.
That is weird.
It is called Dead Mountain again.
It is called Dead Mountain. It's so weird. What happened to them on the mountain? What happened? I want to know. What happened to them on the mountain?
Do you know what I was thinking, Erica? Why didn't the Soviets use their psychic spies to solve this case?
That's a really
they had the opportunity.
Good question. They had the means. They had the opportunity. They had all those. That's a fuck. Oh, okay. You know how we said. Also, you haven't listened to our Psychic Spies episode. Like, this is not going to make any sense to you. You know how we said if they had psychic spies, they would have to get rid of them in order to cover their own tracks?
Oh, yes.
What if these hikers were the psychic
spies? Because that was the other theory, actually, that it was like an insider military operation, that they had gone across these like lands where they were doing strikes or something, and it was just like all covered up. Like there was like bombs and stuff.
Yeah, which I mean, I don't know what the like Russian like investigation process was in 1959, but for them to look at this weird like set of deaths and be like, yeah, we're closing the case, it's unexplained. That just feels like super kind of sloppy work or like unfinished.
Yeah.
But maybe they were just like underfunded, but also maybe they were covering something up, especially if these people had irradiated clothes. Like that is not something you would want to leak to the public. If there had been some kind of exposure from their job or whatever it was, just having kind of stray like radiation out there isn't a good look for the Russian government. So I don't know. I'm like, yeah, maybe.
I feel like they've got a long
Not
history
psychic
of
spies, but maybe they were covering people up.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they've got a long history of bad looks, but and cover-ups. But
I just think any government body, just full stop. I feel like any government body I don't trust.
that's what the core of this is. Yep. You just don't. You don't trust the government.
Trust them.
And is the education system over there owned by the government, like the universities? Do you know?
In 1959, well, yeah, there was all the Communist Party. So it was all quite literally. That was kind of their whole shtick. Yeah,
sending them off to Dead Mountain.
Okay, well, I don't think the university sent them, but I do like this idea of them being psychic spies, and this is how they got rid of their psychic spies.
No.
Maybe there was a psychic battle.
I think it's another plausible theory that no one will listen to, but
I think it's probably if I put plausibility, I'd probably go with Slab Avalanche, and this would probably be just like a couple steps below Slab Avalanche and plausibility. A lot higher though than the Yeti though. That's still the bottom for me.
Well, this leads us to the next segment.
Oh, yeah, we've got segments in season 2.
We've got a segment this time. It is Preposterous Conundrums. There'll be a song. So, Erica.
Yeah.
This is a question for you. Well, I've got 2 for you today, actually.
Okay.
How would you fend off an angry Yeti?
Fend off an angry... Okay, well... So I've already provoked it in this situation.
They're misunderstood creatures, okay?
So it's too late. So I've already provoked it somehow, and now it's coming at me, and I'm hiking. Okay, I would use you know how you have those like ski poles that you like stick in the snow. I would use them as like javelins to like try to spear the Yeti. I'm imagining myself being very competent in this situation because I can't outrun a Yeti. One, I can't run in the snow. That's too hard. I can't outrun a Yeti. Not an option.
Just through experience.
So I'm going to have to try to... I know. I'm honest. I can't outrun a Yeti. I'm going to spear it with my snow sticks, and then maybe use my like big ski shoe to like bonk it on the head.
Yeah.
Try to knock it out, and then I would run.
And then you would run. I mean, that's not a bad idea. I was thinking more you could just like make snowballs and turn it into a snowball fight, and then somehow the Yeti gets tricked into having fun.
Okay, so you have kind of this picture of Yetis. It's like these really, really lovely creatures. Very peaceful.
Forgivable.
Very, like, forgiving and fun-loving. So you want to win the Yeti over with love.
Yeah. That's what I do. But I like to know that you would use your ice poles as a javelin stick. That's good to know. Just I feel like that's how you'd fend off a bear.
If your one of love falls through, I'll go at it with my javelins. Then we got all
we've got everything covered.
We get attacked by a Yeti. Exactly.
My next
kill it with kindness and then just kill it.
Oh yeah. Poor Yeti. Well, okay. Then my next question for you is, would you steal clothes off a dead body to either get warm or get trendy?
Yeah, absolutely. To one of them for sure. And that's get trendy. Look, obviously survival situations. And like I'm big into survival situations. And I feel like obviously it's harder to do it once you're there, but I feel like you do what you have to do to live, whether that's steal someone's clothes, whether it's resort to cannibalism. Like I feel like in the situation, if it's life or death, I feel like most people would do what they have to do to survive.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good instinct and a natural part of being a person. To be trendy, if it's a dead body, like in a real